Persistence is often treated as a character trait. Some people have it, and some people don't. And those who struggle are told to push harder, try longer, or want it more. But in learning, that framing causes more harm than help. Welcome to Learning Reframed, Education Without the Noise. I'm Dr. Ken Feldman, and this podcast looks at how learning actually works inside real constraints without hype, shortcuts, or unnecessary complexity. Persistence is one of the most misunderstood ideas in learning. It's often described as endurance, staying with a task no matter how difficult or how frustrating it becomes. The assumption is that persistence is proven by discomfort. But in practice, sustained learning rarely works that way. Most people don't stop learning because they lack commitment. They stop learning because the effort required becomes disconnected from meaningful progress. When effort doesn't lead to improvement, persistence starts to feel pointless. This is where true burnout begins. Burnout is not simply fatigue. It's the sense that continued effort won't change the outcome. Once that belief sets in, motivation becomes irrelevant. What's often missed is that persistence depends on feedback, not willpower. When learners can see that effort leads somewhere, even slowly, they're far more likely to continue. When effort feels repetitive without any return, persistence collapses. Another issue is scale. Many learning environments ask persistence at the wrong level. Learners are encouraged to persist with large, ill-defined goals rather than manageable steps. Stick with it becomes a vague instruction, not a usable strategy. Experienced learners persist differently. They narrow the task, they adjust the conditions, and they change the approach rather than increasing brutal force. Persistence is flexible. It's not about staying rigid, it's about staying engaged. There's also a time dimension that's often misunderstood and gets ignored. Persistence doesn't mean continuous effort. It means returning to learning after interruption, frustration, or a pause. Many people interpret breaks as failure, but in reality, pauses are often necessary for learning to consolidate and for energy to recover. The ability to return matters more than the ability to endure without stopping. Another factor is identity. When persistence is framed as a personal virtue, difficulty becomes personal as well. Struggle is interpreted as weakness rather than information. A more useful framing is to treat struggle as a signal. Something in the task, the timing, the environment needs to be adjusted. This reframing reduces shame and preserves encouragement. So what actually supports persistence without burnout? First, shorten feedback loops. Learners need to see movement even in the smallest scale. Second, define stopping points well in advance. Knowing when to pause prevents the effort from becoming overwhelming. Third, normalize adjustment. Changing strategies is not quitting. It's responding intelligently to the current conditions. Finally, separate persistence from self-worth. The goal is learning, not proving you have endurance. When persistence is grounded in clarity and feedback, when it's grounded in pressure, it rarely lasts. In closing, persistence isn't about pushing harder. It's about staying oriented towards progress without exhausting the capacity needed to learn. When persistence works, it feels steady. It feels strong, not rhetoric. You've been listening to Learning Reframed. If today's episode resonated with you, Please follow the podcast on your favorite platform and give us a like on YouTube. But more importantly, share this episode with someone who might find it helpful. I'm Ken Feldman, and thanks for listening to Learning Reframed. See you next time.